Welcome to Vetted. Today's episode is a powerful one. We're bringing you a preview of one of the most impactful grassroots veteran-led events in the Mountain West, the Veterans Talking to Veterans at the National Museum of Military Vehicles Resource Fair, taking place on May 24th, 2025 over Memorial Day weekend in beautiful Wyoming. This isn't just a fair, it's a movement, a day dedicated to connection, storytelling, and support by veterans for veterans. The event brings together a coalition of organizations, agencies, and community leaders working side by side with those who've served. Veterans can access everything from on-site VA claims assistance and benefits navigation to legal aid, housing and employment resources, mental health and screenings, and support for military families and caregivers. But what truly sets this gathering apart is its focus on peer-to-peer healing. Through facilitated storytelling circles, narrative coaching, and mentorship workshops, attendees are invited to share their experiences in a safe, supportive environment, building trust, reducing isolation, and fostering authentic community. The fair also features creative expression zones where the veterans can engage in art, writing, music therapy, and guided journaling, and interactive demonstrations that tap into the power of narrative and neuroplasticity. You'll also find panel discussions, resource booths, live performance, and spaces to simply sit, talk, and be heard. There's no cost to attend, and every piece of the event is designed around the principle that no one understands a veteran like another veteran, and that healing is strongest when it's mutual, accessible, and shared. I'm honored to have two incredible guests who are not only leading this effort, but are redefining what post-service advocacy and healing can look like. First, I'm joined by Timothy Sheppard, a retired Army colonel and the Wyoming State Commissioner for Veterans Affairs. Commissioner Sheppard brings a career of operational command, legislative expertise, and veteran policy leadership to the conversation. His commitment to creating responsive, veteran-first systems of care has positioned Wyoming as a model for innovative outreach, particularly in rural and underserved communities. Under his leadership, the state has expanded access to mental health support, navigated complex benefit systems, and launched initiatives that amplify peer-to-peer outreach. You'll hear firsthand today why he believes veteran-to-veteran dialogue is a force multiplier for healing, and how events like this one give meaning to service long after the uniform comes off. Next, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Julie Elledge, founder and CEO of Mentor Agility, a nationally recognized organization using narrative coaching, creative expression, and trauma-informed mentorship to unlock resilience in veterans, first responders, and their families. With a background in education, neuroscience, and clinical psychology, Dr. Elledge has pioneered programs that equip veterans to become certified life coaches and peer mentors, transforming lived experience into professional leadership. Her team is a driving force behind the Veterans Talking to Veterans event, curating a day that features storytelling circles, coaching workshops, art-based healing sessions, VA resources, and more. This isn't about handing out flyers and business cards. It's about authentic connection, whole person wellness, and empowering veterans to support one another in a lasting way. So today, we're going to dig into the why behind this event, the vision resources, the people, and the mission, and how you can get involved whether you're a veteran, a family member, a service provider, or simply someone who cares deeply about those who've worn the uniform. So let's dive in. Hi, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
It's good to see you too, Jen.
Great to see you, Jen.
It seems like just yesterday that we were in Arlington for the National Association for State Directors of Veterans Affairs, NASTVA, right? Did I say it right?
You got it.
I did. You know how long it took me to get that? Even just now, it seems like I got it right. Isn't that amazing?
Great job.
I feel like I'm really proud of that. But in any case, we were talking about this and getting to Wyoming, and it's Memorial Day already, and I'm so excited to join you both next week. And I'm excited for you to share with the audience what this is all about. And I know, Julie, I'm sure I did not even describe that the way it's supposed to be said. So I'm going to turn it over to you and allow you to introduce the master behind all of Wyoming, and the president of NASDVA, who I know was very well respected. In fact, he was called out at the NASDVA meeting for his work by Secretary Collins. I was very excited when he did that because I had just spoken to him for a while and I felt very special. Like 6 degrees of separation. That was what happened at that moment for me. So yes, why don't you start?
Well, let me tell you what Veterans Talking to Veterans is. Veterans Talking to Veterans are we train trauma-informed coaches who are veterans to work with veterans. They run groups, weekly groups in the community, and they volunteer to do this. And on the 23rd and 24th, we will be honoring those coaches. And on the 24th, the governor of Wyoming will give the diplomas to the coaches to acknowledge their latest graduation and recertify those coaches. And they work at the leisure of Tim Sheppard, who is the Wyoming Veterans Commission, in addition to being NASDVA's president. And so, Tim, I'll let you take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Jen. This is awesome. And I will tell you to have the opportunity for the third year in a row now to graduate more coaches and to have the governor present and to have members of the VA there and a multitude of vendors is just extraordinary. It means so much to those coaches. And I will tell you, the coaches mean so much to us because that's how we're going to make a difference across Wyoming when it comes to veterans talking to veterans, is that it starts with the coaches. So this is a great platform, and it will be a great couple of days in Dubois.
So, is Veterans Talking to Veterans just in Wyoming, or has it expanded beyond?
It's expanding into Idaho and also New Mexico. And then there are other states too that are interested in bringing in. It takes time to bring the program into a state and onboard each state and to recruit the coaches and train the coaches and launch the program. But the program did win an award from NASDVA and the Department of Veterans Affairs called the Abraham Lincoln's Pillars of Excellence in Innovation and Suicide Prevention. And that took me a while to learn how to say that as well. And so we're really proud of that. And the event itself is at the National Museum of Military Vehicles. Wyoming is one of the most rural states. And so this program has been really successful in getting resources into small communities and and they're also in the cities of Wyoming as well. But those coaches are able to really take a lot of load off of the mental health therapists and things like that. They take some of the load off. They don't treat mental illness, but they do treat the potential of veterans and their families. And veterans deserve to really not just to survive, but they deserve to thrive. And that is the role of the coach, is to help veterans thrive. And so they come together, they operate these free weekly groups, and the coaches themselves love doing the work, and it's very powerful to them. And an important role that they play is to connect them into resources that they need and help them to connect. Sometimes it's knowing how to work a big system like the Veterans Affairs can be challenging. And so having a thinking partner about how to go about working with the VA can be really helpful to them. But there's all kinds of programs out there for veterans. So they help. And one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that our coaches had exposure in knowing all these resources that are out there. So we thought, instead of just gathering this information for our coaches, because they need to not just know who the contact people are, they need to meet the contact people, they need to understand what they do. So we thought, let's have this fair that our coaches can meet them, but also veterans can in one place. But we wanted to differentiate ourselves from other resource fairs. So we've asked our exhibitors to give them an experience. So it's just not a bunch of people sitting behind a table. There's a place for that, but they are there to engage and do fun things with them and to really give them an experience so they understand who the people are and what those resources can really do for them. So we have both national and statewide and regional resources at this fair, along with we're going to have Modern Warrior Live on Saturday. James Poling is coming to do a screening. We're having speakers the night before and a screening of Dear Serves. So it's really a celebration and enjoyment, tank demonstrations, rides. So there'll be a 20,000 square foot tent along with you, Jen, in there helping us to highlight the important resources, dignitaries that will be there. Uh, you're going to help us really help veterans understand. So we'll have some job fair, a health fair, a service fair, a recreation fair. So it should be a good time. It's definitely a family affair. And then there's also a gorgeous museum called the National Museum of Military Vehicles that is hosting this for us.
Yeah, I think we got to do a big shout out for the event to our friend Dan Starks. Without his support, we don't have the tent, we don't have the museum, we don't have the conference center. So I just want to say in this setting that thank you, Dan. You have been a true friend to veterans across Wyoming and specifically to the Veterans Talking to Veterans program.
Absolutely. He's been amazing. So he's really been great about helping us create such a celebration and exciting environment.
Well, what I really like about this entire concept is the community coming together and the way that you have brought that concept of community helping community and helping veterans mental health wise. And that is really the core and the spirit of your entire organization and your entire theory on how we ought to be addressing the suicide issue. You don't believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to say anything incorrectly, but you don't believe that veteran suicide is a mental health issue. You believe it's a community problem. And so to me, this is the spirit of the entire problem is bringing the community together and showing how if we work as a community, we can tackle this problem in a different way. So you're really demonstrating with your actions how we should be addressing this. And I think that big I refer to the federal government as big VA. Big VA is the federal VA. Everybody, and that's why Secretary Collins probably did point you out. This is an engenderment of what we should all be doing across the country. And it's one of the reasons why I love hosting you on this show, because I think it should be highlighted how if we work together, this is the standard, if you will. I was speaking with someone yesterday about this concept that it is not just it's not a mental health issue, it's a community issue. And he said that's not a new concept within the military community. We understand that, but you're doing something about it. You're actually doing something about it. There's not necessarily enough resources within VA to handle everything and everybody, but again, you're doing something about it. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about how this program is addressing that.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about the genesis of Veterans Talking to Veterans. It started with a phone call from Julie, asking me, "Hey, what are you doing in relation to helping Afghanistan veterans deal with the way that we have pulled out of Afghanistan?" To which I said, I realize it's an issue, but I don't know what to do. And she said, I think I've got a program. And then it just so happened that within the next day or so, I had the opportunity to visit with the governor, and he asked me the same question. And so, it became clear to me that this this was a significant issue, and we needed to address specifically Afghanistan. But then we started talking about the concept, and it became clear to me that this was much bigger than just Afghanistan. This was all veterans. And the approach that Julie brought to me, one of the things that we both agreed early on was so critical was that it be veteran to veteran. Because whether you agree with that or not, there is a linkage between veterans and a camaraderie. And so they have a tendency to let down their guard a little bit when they're talking to each other. And that was the whole idea, was let's give veterans a forum where they can share. And let's give them again this forum where not only can they share, but they can take that conversation wherever they want it to go. And that it be facilitated and led by the coach, but that we not lose sight of that other veteran who is the one receiving the support. And also that as we continue to look at it, that we might identify veterans who needed additional support or help, and that part of our program would be a referral program, and to get veterans whatever the help is that they needed, whatever the underlying condition, that we get them some help. And so that was really the hypothesis of what we brought together.
One of the things we've talked about, Julie, and one of the things that I have encountered in the work with my nonprofit, Gen Vets, is, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts. This, if you, I express genes, this genetic test that will be an objective marker whether someone is in an active state of dealing with PTSD or something. It's not always therapy that is the answer, right? It could be a variety of different things that is helping someone. And so to me, that's why it's a brilliant concept. John Schmidt is the CEO of that, and he's a veteran of 30 years. Just brilliant. But that's what you're talking about. Getting them the help that they need, the resources that they need. And it may not be always the traditional course. And so we're trying to figure out through talking, right? Veterans talking to veterans and your coaches. And that's what I find so unique about this. And different, and it's looking at so many different options and spreading out what the solutions might be, and not just taking a sort of tunnel vision approach as to how we handle what is not one size fits all. Everybody needs to be looked at individually, and I think so often not only do veterans feel like they're being overlooked and not treated like they're being cared for individually, when I don't really think that that's the case. I do think people feel like they're treating them individually, but that's not the message that they're receiving. And we've talked about that as well.
You brought up, Jen, to me, what's one of the critical components of this is that every veteran is a snowflake, and that we treat them all as individuals. And, whatever path they're on, that's the right path. And that we work everything toward helping them on their path.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is exactly how you treat every single veteran that walks through that door. Everybody gets genuine presence. You're so present with them, and that's an important piece that we train to. So our coaches are professionally trained as coaches to pull out their natural ability to heal, their natural intrinsic motivation. Your trauma dulls all of that. Their performance, their goal achievement, it just dulls it. And so we train our coaches on how to wake up and stimulate their natural abilities inside of them. So our coaches are trained, you don't have the solutions, but you are trained to stimulate what they have, the best parts of them, including their healing. And so when we look at trauma informed often, a lot of programs treat it as mindfulness, meditation, being in nature, and we train all of those things. But that is not actually what we mean from trauma. What we mean is a traumatic experience always disrupts somebody's intrinsic motivation, their performance, their goal achievement, and their ability to adapt. When somebody transitions into being a veteran, it's one of the most um, vulnerable times because they lose their sense of purpose, their structure, the discipline, their mission, their camaraderie. And so this is what we focus on. And to address trauma, even if you're not in the military, a key component is working with a group because trauma often is a social issue. So we know that from research. It's social and that we have to reconnect. And the other piece is that a lot of people assume the veterans have trauma because they witnessed violence. That may not be what gave them a traumatic experience. It could be being away from their family or a hurt, or there's all kinds of things that are unique to the military life. And that's what a veteran understands better than anybody else. And so they're not just peer, they're not peer, we don't consider them peer to peer. That's an important program too. And if we look at Governor Gordon's mental health map redesign, peer to peer is on it. Therapy, it's very important. Therapy is a very important response to mental illness. And 20% of people who experience a traumatic event will need therapy or could benefit from therapy. But 80% have post traumatic growth. And that's what the coaches also do. Plus, we are just beginning to see the shortage of mental health professionals. So we can train coaches in 8 weeks to 3 months at a fraction of the cost of becoming a therapist. And it can be a stepping stone to becoming a therapist as well. So we have to come up with solutions to solve the shortage of mental health and nurses as well. Those are two huge areas. And physical health is mental health. So that is the space that our coaches work. And they're taught we are competitive to no one. And our job is to help the veterans get into the right program for their needs.
How does the program help families? We've talked a lot about the veterans. What about the veteran families? Because as we know, they are very affected by this, both individually. I'm very interested in how this is going to affect the 20-year war, the children who had both parents, in some cases, deploy, sometimes at the same time.
So I'm so glad you said that, asked that question, because the program trains veterans, spouses of veterans, but also we do have coaches that are actually in the military as well that are doing groups for veterans, but they also, when we have a strategy of placing them into organizations, they can also work as an internal coach to support a team as well. And a family is a team. So we have a huge emphasis on group coaching. So if you're working with a family, it's a group. And we have lots of resources. So our programs work very well in a wide range of family, workplace. We talk about financial well-being. So our program can go into the non-clinical areas. And we can't solve the problem in a clinician's office solely. We need to have resources in our hospitals, in our schools, because our families, military families, have families in schools that are affected about it. So we need to have resources at every level, workplace, home, community. And so in this conversation, we've been focusing on the community coaches that are working in the community. But we also have coaches that are working in workforce, small business association, hospitals, the VA, Department of Family Services. We just trained our first coach there. So we look to put them in as an internal coach as well as also doing the groups.
Tim, is on a bigger scale, do you discuss these sorts of things at NASDVA? Are these things on a bigger scale across the country, things that other commissioners and directors and state secretaries are looking at?
Yeah, we're starting to see more and more states showing interest. You know, Julie and Robin with Mentor Agility have been to NASDVA now for several years. I can tell you that they're well received. There's a lot of interest. You know, it all comes back to the veteran. And we're so focused on at NASDVA, hey, what can we do to make a difference for veterans? And everybody is just traumatized by this suicide rate that we have. It's always an open discussion of what else can we do. And we really do believe, well, one thing you can do is work on your veteran community. And I can't think of a better answer than veterans talking to veterans.
I am a huge proponent of NASDVA and the work that you all do. I've been to several conferences now. I know how committed everyone is there and the work that you do. I've said several times, and Julie and I have spoken about this offline. I think that the amount of support you need from your individual state legislatures needs to, increase 100-fold. I would go lobbying for you across the country all day, every day. If I could duplicate myself, I would. And I'd love to have you back on another time to talk about that, because that's so important. I say every day that care for the veteran starts at home in the state, and it has to be a combined effort between the states and Big VA. But I know how important it is to individual state commissioners, directors, and secretaries, and it's so evident every time I spend time with each and every one of you, and talking to you now. And this work, what you've done with veterans talking to veterans, and what you continue to do as president of NASDVA, couldn't be a better display of it. So,
Well, thank you.
no, thank you, thank you.
Some people don't know the difference between the state directors, and the VA.
Oh, no, they don't. It's that's something that's a constant education too. And you can't blame them. A lot of people don't understand the levels of civics, and
Right.
that, I'm watching my sons and watch my daughters learn. And they're smart kids, and still they struggle with that. So it's
Yeah.
complicated. And so, we explain it to them and the best we can, but it's not easy.
Tim had to explain it to me because I didn't know it when I first started working with Tim, and he sat me down as he does and explains to me
Tim
what.
explains a lot of things to Julie.
Yes, Tim does.
Ooh. But
I
Julie explains a lot of things to Tim.
That's kind.
I think
I am going to remain neutral host right now, because I got to be with both of you next week. Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for being on. Well, actually, before I go, Julie, could you just explain some of the resources that are going to be there a little bit more detail, because I want everybody to hear. You talked about the hands-on, the examples that are going to be given. I want to know what I'm going to get when I get there. It's all about me right now.
We have had the good fortune of working with a lot of organizations. So we collaborate with a lot. So we have the Red Cross will have a huge presence at this event, and they have treated our coaches so well. We really appreciate it. And so they will be there to talk about what the Red Cross does for veterans specifically. Wyoming State Parks also will have a huge presence because they have a strong relationship in service, right? They're using our state gems, the state parks, but also the cultural resources in service of the veterans. So they will be able to be there and do that. And they have a wonderful program called Pathfinders, which if you look for that, you can see that planning your trip to Dubois, they will tell you all the different things around the museum that you can do across in that weekend. In addition to, you could spend 2 days at the museum alone. We have groups like Marcus Institute that is coming, for example. We will have horses. We're going to have At Ease horsemanship coming to will do some horse therapy, and then you can watch that as well. Gosh, there's so many organizations that are coming. The Department of Corrections will be there to recruit veterans as well. Our program is in the Department of Corrections, and they're just expanding it because it's just done so well. Conrad Washington from the Center of Faith from the federal VA, but also Mike Biggins will be there as well, who is from the Office of Engagement.
Rural engagement.
Rural engagement will be there as well. And there will be a panel about navigating the VA under new leadership. Kent Corso from Prosper will be there as well. And Wyoming health fairs, people can come and have blood tests and meet with and get all kinds of exams there from the Wyoming health fairs. So there's just a lot. Oh, AARP will be there as well. And I think they're doing a raffle this year. And so there's a lot of wonderful organizations. Tim, is there anyone you want to throw out there too?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
She did, but I really stopped paying attention when she said that the Department of Corrections is recruiting. I don't know if
Yeah.
it
What
For
are they recruiting?
what exactly are they recruiting for,
Right.
Linda?
They are recruiting staff, and I have to say I've worked with the Department of Corrections, and there's a lot of wonderful people that work there. So
Yeah.
they're looking, and it's a good place.
Yep.
I do the volunteer work here in Maryland with them too, but
Ah, great. Right.
they're
they're amazing. But I
Yeah.
don't know that I would say that they're recruiting.
Well, it's a job fair. They're
Yes.
part of the job fair,
Okay.
for example. And so we are constantly a lot of people are still joining the events. We don't charge for the event. It's free. We do vet the resources that are there. So it should be a lot of fun. Sensible Nutrition will be there. I mean, there's just a whole host of organizations.
Well, great. I want to thank you both for being here and for taking the time to do this with me today. I look forward to seeing you next week and
Great.
working with you. Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen. We're
you.
excited
Right.
to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your work, both of you also.